Welcome to the Extinction Level Event Podcast, Apocalypse Edition. I am your host, the Barrelman. So I am recording this the day after the election, the presidential election, 2024, I guess for posterity's sake. When this will actually come out, I don't know. I have got to edit it, obviously, and it's having problems saving on my tablet, which has a lot of memory because I've looked, but it keeps saying no more space. Anyways, so the gist of it is I'm not sure when exactly this will come out. Obviously, the sooner the better, given the content, the context, and the relevance of the timing. All right, so it is the day after Trump has been elected president again as the 47th president. So this is a podcast. How to really say it? I mean, it's still extinction level event. It's still about the environment and the coming doomsday, but instead of being like, yeah, things are bad, but they could be worse. How, I don't know, but they're definitely bad, and we're definitely not doing anything to stop it. Now it's, things actually are going to get way worse than I had thought. Like way worse. It's actually quite entertaining because of how much worse it's seeming that it's going to get. I don't know who. Apparently he's putting, this is what he said. We don't know until it happens. He said he's putting Elon Musk in charge of finances. That's going to go real well. He's putting RFK in charge of health, and that's going to go great. You might want to stock up on food because when the regulations start dropping, because we had that whole outbreak of the boar's head, because the regulations had dropped and E. coli was rampant. I don't know if people died. I think people died from it. I know a ton of people got sick, but I think people actually died. I don't know if you want to be one of those guys who randomly bites into a sandwich that murders you, but, more power to you. But expect more regulations to just be gone. And so, and it's always going to be our fault, of course. So it's not like, boar's head, they did bad. No, somehow it's our fault. It's not Borat's fault. It's not going to be Oscar Mayer or whoever, not because Oscar Mayer specifically, but, just to name a random food name, Kraft or was it American Food Brands or whatever the big conglomerate is called. But yeah, so at Extinction Level Event, we talk about the oncoming doomsday, but it isn't always just environmental. There's a lot of things that are kind of heading our way. The Great Filter, if you will. And we have talked about the Great Filter in the podcast, in the pre-YouTube days. We'll talk about it again. Obviously, like I said, we're pretty much going to go over everything again here. So this has happened, and he said basically drill, baby, drill. So it would be hilarious if you put Palin in charge of energy. But I think he's going to pick the biggest, wealthiest oil baron who's given him just a ton of money and put him in charge because we know they're famous for, how should I say, being responsible and using self-restraint. So that's going to do nothing but do real good, I'm sure, in the environment. I'm sure fracking is included with the drill, baby, drill mentality. Because we know during COVID that the oil companies were losing a ton of money because nobody was out, nobody was driving. So they jacked up prices and they cut supply. Like they had a ton of it and they cut it so that they would make all that money back, a ton of money, and prices went through the damn roof. I mean, they're going up again, which is surprising because it's the off season now. Prices usually go down, which they did right after summer. They went down, but now they're going back up again. It's kind of weird, at least in my neck of the woods. So they did that to artificially inflate the price, not because they didn't have enough or because we couldn't import enough or blah, 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 right? So it wasn't a problem of, oh, we don't have enough. If we had plenty of oil, the prices would be cheaper. No, the prices weren't cheaper because they weren't making enough money. So they jacked up the price because not enough people were buying oil. So they have, it's not about how much we have. What is about how much we have is the destruction to the environment. I saw somebody on Twitter, which I responded to, say, "Goodbye, Trump, hello, nature." I'm assuming that what they're trying to say is I'm, leaving the civilized world behind now that Trump is in charge, and I'm going to go live out in the woods where this won't affect me. And I responded with, well, I hope you enjoy the oil rig that's going to be your neighbor soon, because that's what's coming. So this is my thought, because I always go worst case scenario, because I'd much rather go worst case scenario and have them prove me wrong than just go like regular. In a way, a lot of people will think this is pessimistic. Pessimistic is thinking they will do the worst, no matter what. This is what's happening. You guys are all idiots. I'm hoping that they don't, but I want to prepare you for the worst. That's my point. I want you to know what this is, what this could be, so we can be ready for that. So hopefully it doesn't come, and we are prepared for what it is. We're like over-prepared, because we prepared for the worst, and it was bad, but not as bad as that. That's what I'm hoping. But that doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to be. So, yeah, that's my philosophy. I want to prepare you for the worst, because I hope the worst doesn't happen, and I hope we're over-prepared. Better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. That's the big philosophy of mine. It's not like I invented it or anything, but I definitely follow that for sure. So the Energy Commission is going to be, they're going to gut the entire thing, I got to tell you. But I'll be honest, if I was put in charge, because I've thought about this before, and I haven't gone into like education and stuff, but I thought, the first thing I would do to get all the money that we're missing, right, is I'd get rid of the 50,000 enforcement agencies that we have. You know what I mean? Police, sheriffs, FBI, I think those are all fine. They all do their job perfectly. CIA. But then we started with Homeland Security and this and that, and I don't know where all the different names and stuff are. And now we have Space Force. It's just so dumb. We really need to cut down on those things. Get back to just police, sheriffs, and like FBI, CIA, and that's it. And they need to stick to their lanes, right? And people are like, well, they have to specialize. Well, you can have like Homeland do Homeland stuff, but it needs to be under the banner of this is part of the FBI, and that's just Homeland's just like an agency that they control, but it would be the same. They'd still be FBI, you know what I mean? But they do Homeland Security stuff if that's necessary. But we have so many different things and so many dollars going into different pocketbooks, and it's an issue, and it's an issue that's, well, it's just another form of greed, and it's another form of tribalism, and it's another form of people getting rich, sort of not really behind the scenes, because it's like right out in front of everybody, but in a way that's shadowed, so you don't really see what's happening. So you can't really stop it because you can't really see it. You know what I mean? So yeah, having a ton of those agencies, I think, personally, I would cut back on those. I think that would save us a ton of money, get rid of a lot of red tape. You know what I mean? We have, what is that? ICE, the Border Patrol, all that stuff. That's all great, but again, I don't know that we need 100% different agency for that. We could fold all that into sheriff, police, local agencies, because there are local county jurisdictions that are on the border. Those people could do that. They would just have specialized units who did it, but they still be sheriffs or whatever. Anyways, yeah, so that that's my whole if I was in charge thing that I had thought of, but that was like a money thing. That was I think that could start saving us money, because then we could start putting that into other things like, education, which is one of the most important things to put money into. I did a podcast in the before days on education specifically. It was a whole episode on it, talking about, the good and bad things, what it's done for us, what it can do for blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I won't go, over the whole thing. But again, we'll probably have another episode on that at a later date. But I was looking at some maps, and these aren't revelations by any means, but they are illustrative, on Twitter, where it was showing educational levels in America and who they voted for. So Republican majority areas versus Democratic majority areas, and who voted, in what direction, and what the educational levels are. And the lower the educational level, the more likely they are to vote for a Republican, which has just kind of always been the case, which is one of the reasons the Republicans hate higher education so much. And they're starting to get everybody else together. And you can't really blame them, because education is kind of edging itself out, at least higher education. There's the big battles over, should we teach people about slavery, and should we not teach people that Columbus discovered America, because it was actually discovered long before that, and obviously there was the indigenous people, but even the Columbus story involves them, But there were people way before Columbus who had discovered America, and I think Columbus got as close as like the Virgin Islands or something like that. Like, he never touched mainland America, from what I understand, from what I'm remembering. But the point is, there's already battles over what we should and shouldn't teach in the, lower educational systems where we're teaching anyways. So the real battles are higher education, and higher education has become a bigger problem because it's getting more and more expensive and unaffordable. Basically it's a movement to say, well, then we don't need it. If you're going to charge me $1 million to do this, I don't need it. And you can't blame them for that. You have to blame the greed of these institutions and the lack of support of the government, because it's a balance. The government was supporting education a lot more, so they were able to make money, even though that shouldn't be the priority, but still, they were able to make money and charge a lot less to the students and still be able to do it. And then the government gave less and less money to them, helped them out less. Obviously, the rich people keep wanting to get richer, so they want to increase their money every year. They don't want to make $1 million. They want to make 1.1 million, and then 1.2 million. And it's like it always has to go up for them. So they always have to increase your tuition so that they can constantly make more money. It's not that they need to make money because they're going to lose it and be broke. They just want more money. Every year they need to make more money. And obviously some people will be broke because they spend it as fast as they make it. But a lot of people, it's just, I just want more money. Like, I have plenty, but I want more. And I want it to keep going up. So we have that issue. And I know a lot of people are thinking, okay, I think you got off topic a little bit. You were talking about the whole Trump becoming president and how this is bringing about doomsday, and you just got into a bit of the weeds. The weeds are important, though, because the weeds are color, they're context, they give us an understanding. But in the long run, because there's many tendrils, again, like I said, to doomsday, there's a lot of signposts on the way that say, you were here, and this is, you're 250 feet away from doom. You're 500 feet away from a pothole or whatever, that kind of a thing. So it's not just, hey, you're going to fall off the cliff. Sometimes it's, hey, you're leaving the paved road for a dirt road. And like, okay, well, I think it'll probably be okay. Yeah, but it's not that, hey, you're dead. This is a sign. We're taking away the pavement, so we have a lot less confidence in the road going ahead because we don't even feel like paving it. We don't have enough confidence in the necessity for this particular road to pave it. We're just going to leave it rock. And some of it's going to be gravel rock. And it's like, okay, close to paved, right? They don't have the same adhesion and structural integrity of asphalt, but it's got aggregate in it. So it's a stronger, more cohesive road than just, plain road, right? Just plain dirt. But then after that, they're like, okay, now the aggregate's gone. We're not even maintaining. Now it's just dirt. And especially after, because there's a lot of dirt roads here and aggregate dirt roads as well. And after a good rain, or even a moderate rain, there are huge pools of water, right? In what should be an even road where it channels along the side. No, it just digs out big sections of the road, and now you have a big old pothole, giant pool here, right? And you don't know how deep it is, because it could be a little shallow pool, just a really big but shallow pool, or it could be a really small one but a huge hole and your tire's going to get stuck in it. You have no idea. Especially on a somewhat popular road, not a hugely popular, but even just somewhat, because it's going to constantly be muddied up in dark water. You can't see in it, so you can't really see the bottom. And of course, around here we've got a lot of tall trees, so that's a lot of shadow. That's a little bit difficult to just see in the bottom because it's just kind of a black pool at that point with a shadow, and then even a little bit of light just kind of makes it worse. So it can be tough navigating down these roads. But then you see these signs say, hey, pothole, hey, this, hey, roads, and the point is the signs are there, and they're all pointing towards this cliff at the end. But not every sign is cliff 200 feet away. Some is just, like I said, pavement stops, aggregate stops, potholes start, one lane road, no shoulder, whatever those signs are. They all are kind of pointing towards a similar thing. And I know this metaphor kind of strays a little bit because, of course, there's all those kinds of signs. It doesn't mean that the road's going to end and we're all going to die. In this particular case, the signs we're talking about are like, okay, apex predators have wiped out. Okay, 80% of life on biodiversity has been wiped out. Okay, we've put, 20% more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than we, possibly should have. They have a hurricane that just came up right now. And it reminds me of, I think it was Helene before, where Helene had come up and they were like, this is a category 1, I think it was, and they're like, it's probably not going to amount to much. It's going to hit, I think it was Cuba. It's going to lose a lot of energy, and this is really not going to gain a whole lot of energy over here. And I think one of them offhandedly said, it's warm water here, but we're not really expecting anything. And then we got a category 5, or I think it was a 5. It could have been a 4, but I think it was a 5, and it hit and just devastated the area, right? One that had just been hit by, I can't remember the name of the one before that, but the area just had gotten devastated and hit before. And now there's another one, I can't remember its name, but it's out there right now, and it's going to hit Cuba, I think, tonight as I'm recording this. And they said right now it's category 2. I think it had just upgraded as they were talking about it or right before, and they said they expect it to get up to a 3. They said, but then it's going to go out to the Gulf Coast where it's cooler water, and it's going to really cool down. And they were talking about wind shear, which, yeah, that can definitely do some damage to a cyclone, having a directional wind, because that's definitely takes away the energy from the imbalance that creates the storm. The problem is they were showing the temperatures of the waters, right? And it was all red and orange. Like none of it was blue or purple or even like a light green. None of it was cool water. They said, and I quote, cooler water is where it's going to cross. cooler water. And that's really going to take, and it's going to just kind of fizzle out. And I thought, that's what you said about the last one. And it gained strength. And not only that, those waters are warmer than you're alluding to. And they're going to give more energy, or at least sustain its energy, way more than you seem to think it's going to. And then it starts hitting the really warm waters in the coast near, in the Gulf near the coast. And that's going to pick that energy right back up again, and boom, we're off to the races as far as a huge disaster again, most likely. Probably Texas again, just because that's kind of been one of the trends, is Florida and Texas has been kind of where it's been hitting lately, and some of Mexico, some of Baja. So they've been getting pummeled by this pretty hard, but that seems to be somewhat the trend of where these storms have been going lately. So they're acting like this thing's going to fizzle out, but I don't think it's going to. And this is just another example of these things that are happening that are just going to get worse, and we keep downplaying it or saying, no, we don't really, And it's like, well, and to be fair, and I don't usually watch this channel, but this was the only one I saw, or the first one I saw at least, that mentioned a storm coming up in there. I'm like, oh, another one. Okay, let me read about it. Watch. It was on YouTube. And it was from Fox. So, you have to forgive me for that one, and they were talking about it, so who knows? From everything I know, from things that I personally have seen, but just word from other people who have watched or seen these segments, Fox actual news, not the opinion stuff, not the political stuff, but just news about, hey, this is happening, they're usually pretty good. Like, they're usually pretty accurate on actual news. But who knows? You know what I mean? And it could be, yes, everything they're saying, 100% accurate, but their predictions, maybe not so much, because they're trying to downplay this, because they're trying to downplay climate change and its effect on the weather in general. And that could be biasing what they're saying. I also saw that, I guess, the Paris Accord was going to be coming up pretty soon, maybe soon after Trump actually takes office. That Trump had pulled out of the Paris Agreement in the before days, when he was president before, and that they 100% expect him to pull out. See, I remember him pulling out of pretty much everything, including that. I don't remember getting back in, honestly. It sounds like we did. I'm glad that we did. But it sounds like he's just going to pull out again, because of course. But it's, I was just thrown, well, wait, we got back in? Because I had not really heard about that. And I'm like, that's great, but we certainly didn't make any kind of big deal of it as much as him pulling out we did. So Trump is probably not going to have anything to do with him again. And is, I'm sure, going to be completely influenced by the person he puts in charge of the Energy Commission, who's going to just devastate this place and probably open Alaska up completely. I imagine, if they can, because right now I know they have to pay Alaskans part of the money that they're getting for doing stuff there. I imagine if they can, they're going to get rid of that. No more money for Alaskans, because they're like, okay, you do this and it's terrible, but hey, at least we're getting something out of it. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Instead, it's going to be, well, you're going to have lower gas prices, and we're going to be energy independent, and blah, blah, blah. Everything's going to be better, so that's how you're winning. We don't need to also give you money. So, I don't know for sure, but that seems like the kind of move that they would do. So this isn't word that I've heard or an article that I've read or anything, but I can't imagine that this isn't something they've at least thought about, that they would probably try to do, especially if they get both the Senate and the House. Oh, man. This is, with Project 2025, this is, This is one of those moments, how do I say this? This has been one of those moments for a while now. So it's not like this is it, and oh my God, this is happening right now. But every moment we get closer to that doomsday is a more important moment than the last. So this moment is more important than the last election, which is more important moment than the last election, even though they've all been pretty important lately as far as trying to do better with the climate and with the environment in general. And the next one will be even more important, but at a certain point we lose the importance because it's too late to really do much anyway. So it's not really important because we're already past the tipping points. And a lot of people are trying to say, and I think it has to do with trying to maintain hope and not scare the hell out of people, it's the whole oncoming asteroid scenario. If there's a planet-killing asteroid headed towards Earth, do you tell people? No, just let them die. There's no point in causing panic and disrupting everything going on and making the whole world suffer because they know it's about to end. Just don't tell them, just let it hit. That's the scenario I think they're taking with the environment at the moment. It's tell people there aren't tipping points, tell people that we could still save it, that we could still go back, because otherwise people are going to start panicking. You're going to see riots, you're going to see mass suicides, you're going to see all of this stuff happen because we have told people, sorry, it's too late. It's actually already too late. I don't think it's too late right this second. Right now it's not too late. The problem is that what we're doing, if we keep doing it, it's too late. Like, if we don't change anything, it is too late. And we're not changing anything. In fact, there are three main scenarios. There's the environmentally friendly, I can't remember what they call it, but it's the one where we transition to a cleaner, greener planet, at least in the United States, right, if not the whole planet, as quickly and as soon as possible. That's best case scenario, I think they call that. In general, it's best case scenario, but I think that might actually be what they call it as well. I don't remember. But then there's what they think of as the worst case scenario, which is business as usual. And they have their business as usual graph, which is very linear, unfortunately. And you see that it keeps going up and up and up, sharper and sharper, because it's not going up linearly. It's going up exponentially. And they're not factoring that in because that would be terrifying, because it is. Unfortunately, what we're about to enter into could be one of those things where we go from worst case scenario, business as usual, to actual worst case scenario, where we don't just keep going, we ramp it up and just pour that CO2 and methane into the atmosphere. And of course, as we've talked about in the last episode, which might be the next one, depending on when I get these edited now, that's going to cause evaporation. It's going to heat the water's going to go in the air, and the water is one of the more powerful greenhouse gases. Water, yes, I know, it's part of our planet, it's up there all the time. But if we get a whole lot more water, that's just as bad as any amounts of CO2 and methane. That's actually a horrible, horrible thing to have way more water in the atmosphere, because it is a very powerful greenhouse gas in and of itself. Right now, the planet has a nice balance, or it did, so that we always have water in the air, but it's fine. It's part of the whole cycle. It's part of how the planet evolved and works. But if we get too much more in there, the water itself is a greenhouse gas, and it will cause this to even be worse, right? So we heat the planet up, we cause more evaporation, more water in the air, which in and of itself is a greenhouse, and then it's just this positive feedback cycle, right? Or loop, positive feedback loop, I think is what it's called. So this is where we are right now. We're at this moment where it looks like, we can't say anything for sure, this is just a prediction, but again, I want to give you worst possible scenario so that we are prepared for that and hopefully don't get it, right? Plan for the worst, hope for the best. So I want you to be prepared for what it's going to be like, not for what people are trying to tell you it's going to be like, so you don't feel bad, right? I want to tell you because I want you to be ready. Not because I want you to feel bad, but because I want you to be ready for what's coming. And when it happens, I don't want you to be like, oh crap, nobody could have seen this coming. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We saw it coming, and we did nothing about it. Because for the most of us, for anybody listening to this, I pretty much guarantee anybody listening to this, there's certainly not going to be any influential people who listen to my podcast. Not on that level. And even most of the influential people are like islands. Like there's so many islands out there, some undiscovered, that you couldn't even get to all of them in a lifetime. That's kind of the influential people who would have to alter in order to correct this whole where we're headed thing. And there's just too many of them, and we couldn't get to enough of them to really right the ship at this point without something like catastrophic happening. And I don't mean like earthquake, tsunami, asteroid catastrophic. I mean like financial system collapse, revolution on a planetary scale kind of catastrophe. That's what I mean by it. So, yeah, so we're headed into, again, we don't know for sure. The future is unknown. But from what it looks like, we're headed into a, environmental disaster of the next 4 years minimum. We've all seen I'll Be a Dictator on day one, and he's been ramping up the enemy, allies, what is it, enemy, I can't remember what it is, but essentially it's, hey, if I don't like you and you're here and you're talking bad, you're out of here. Now his victory speech talked a lot more unity and stuff, but we also saw that right after he got shot in the ear, supposedly. I don't know if it did or didn't happen. It's really irrelevant at this point. But the point is that there was that incident where somebody actually took a shot at him and either nearly missed or, actually nicked him. Where he started coming up with, we need unity, we need less of this aggressive talk, and then he abandoned it almost immediately. That's what we had, was another one of those, hey, I just won, it's great, we need to heal and unity and blah, blah. That's going to, again, be abandoned almost immediately. So we're going to get angry, vengeful Trump again. He's going to drive the planet to the ground because he's going to go golfing and leave everything into the hands of people with nefarious he's going to leave it in the hands of people who don't give a crap about anybody but themselves. And it's going to be an environmental disaster, probably a financial one, economic. If America survives this, and I hope that it does, if America survives this, it will not look like what it looked like before. And I'll give you just a little bit of one of the reasons I'm saying if America survives this, not just because of the I'm going to be a dictator and who knows, Project 2025 and just taking over and being basically Emperor Trump for all the rest of time, or the rest of his lifetime anyways, and then passing it on, because then he'll have heirs at that point, right? Not elected officials. He'll pass on his power to his heirs, whoever that happens to be, whether they're blood heirs or appointed. Barring that scenario and saying he just does this 4 years and gets out, I just saw a report that said Russia was trying to smuggle in magnesium, basically thermite, right, into the United States. This was in summer. I think it said it was like June or something, either June or July, but I think they said June. So they were smuggling this in as a way to test, to get, how should I say, is that not to get bombs? I think they were saying like bombs or something, but you use magnesium to create something like thermite, and thermite is an extraordinarily hot burning substance. It burns at an extremely hot temperature. It melts metal. If you ever watch like movies and they'll take out like a metal door, they'll just like sprinkle some stuff or whatever, or put like a little paste, and then light it, and it just like eats away at the metal and drops that big metal door or whatever. This is the stuff they use for that. All right, this is the stuff that the movies are saying is being used. It's thermite. It's magnesium based. It's I believe it was racing cars used to use magnesium because it was much lighter. And you can look this up in their race cars. And there was an accident, and the thing just burned so hot. The guy had absolutely no chance of surviving. He crashed, and it was a huge disaster. And they were like, oh, crap, we cannot make cars out of this anymore. That's the kind of thing we're talking about, him smuggling in. What he could do with it once it's in, we have no idea. We don't know what he was planning on doing. But at first, it's, magnesium. Next, it's uranium, and next it's plutonium, right? And then before you know, we got nuclear devices in here, smuggled in by Russia to attack us. Now, it's not like we ever thought Russia was our friend, or they were going to be our friend or our ally, but it's 100% different thing for Russia to go after us, to actually start attacking us, right? To put missiles or bombs or whatever on American soil and attack us here. That is a completely different level than giving, attacking people in Ukraine or Israel or whatever, right? This is 100% different. Them coming to our soil, and not just even, hey, we blew up a building, but like setting off a nuclear attack here on American soil and being like, yeah, we did that. What is the point of that? Is it just, hey, we're pissed? Or is it, I see a weak America. First we're going to finish Ukraine, and then we're coming for you next, right? That's kind of the direction that he's pointing. It does not mean that that's the way it's happening. Are we going to wake up to Red Dawn, but it's going to be the Russians instead of the Chinese? Actually, I think the first one was the Russians, and then the second, what do you call it, reboot or reimagine or whatever, was China. So I think that's the way it was. Anyways, so this would be like the first one, which was, I believe, Russia, and I believe pretty sure the second one was China, but I believe the first one was actually Russia. So it's going to be original Red Dawn. So is that what we're looking at? Is that what we're expecting? A Red Dawn scenario? I mean, I hope not, obviously. But if we weaken ourselves to the point where that's all we can do, and we have the whole military complex as a jobs program where we make like 1,000 tanks and then let them sit on a field and rust because we don't have anything to do with them. We just needed them to get made so that somebody made some money. And you're like, well, we have all those now. The Russia, no, because they're just sitting out in the field rusting. Nobody knows how to use them. I mean, we do have people trained to do these things, but if you think that we have enough people to man 1,000 rusting tanks to put up any kind of fight, then you're crazy, because we're not going to do that. We're not going to want a war, so we're going to delay as long as we can, and by that time it's going to be too late. So will there be an America in the future? I mean, it's doubtful that any country is going to survive forever, honestly. And by forever, I don't mean till the end of the planet when we get a super red giant and it swallows the earth. I just mean on a long enough timeline, most countries are going to come and they're going to go, and some are not going to just be like destroyed. They'll evolve. They'll become something else. They'll become more globalized. It'll be the European Union or something. But you know what I mean? It's not necessarily, hey, America's just going to be destroyed and gone. It could just be that it just evolves. But for the most part, countries are going to come. They're going to go, as America, Russia, and all that. But will America be around, or will it be destroyed? You know what I mean? And will it be the Russians leading to the future, the Chinese? If somebody was going to lead that wasn't America, and it had to be a communist-based thing, I think China would be the best, just because they are so focused on their economy and making like their citizens' lives, but not because they care so much about the poor people and the citizens, but because China has always been kind of a national brand. Like, we're not just dictators and oligarchs and blah, blah. We want to promote China. We want China to be the best, to have the smartest people. So they're constantly doing things to better themselves, to show other people up, because they want to be the best, right? The way America used to be. So, if anything, that to me would be the better ideal than, say, crazy pants North Korea, or I'm going to blow up the entire world trying to get what I want, Putin, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. None of it seems all that great. This is where we are now. Those are my thoughts on this election results and where it could be leading us. Obviously, we'll talk more later, especially once he actually gets in the office, but we're going to start seeing his cabinet and what it's going to look like before we ever get there. He's talking about it now. It's, again, one thing to say, hey, I'm going to have all these people, and then once you get in there, you don't have those people, right? Especially with Trump, they either just piss him off, or somebody says, hey, these guys are crazy, don't listen to them, and then he just stops listening to them. Whatever happens, it's such a high turnover with Trump. So who he appoints, in the next month may not be who's there when he actually takes office, as opposed to who might be there, 6 months after he takes office. Who knows? But we will, I think, know what his cabinet looks like at this point of his decision-making and what he wants it to look like right now in the not-too-distant future. And it might be something that we need to talk about, and we'll see, right? Because he is president-elect, but that doesn't mean necessarily that he could just do whatever he wants right now. There are still people in places of power until he actually gets into power that can stop him from doing certain, just completely bat-crap crazy things, right? But that time is slipping away. So we will see. And if he's smart, and he's not, but if the people around him are smart and he's smart enough, because I don't want to say smart in this or smart in that, but he does have a lot of experience that guides him, especially in diplomacy and marketing. I think somebody put it pretty well, in marketing. And by diplomacy, I don't mean the ability to go to a place and get them on your side, or to find peace among enemy kind of diplomacy. I mean, I'm going to lie and tell you that we're going to be friends and you're going to get what you want, but you're not. The backhanded kind of con man type of diplomacy, where he looks like a friend who's there to make things better, and he's going to convince people they're better. He's going to say, oh, well, you're going to get what you want, and I'm going to get that kind of diplomacy that looks like it's real, and then he takes it all away because he's never planned on doing it anyways, but by then it's too late. You shake my hand, better count your fingers kind of a thing. So, that's what's going to be coming up. We'll talk about that and whatever else pops up. Maybe we'll do a podcast specifically on this hurricane that comes up. I'll try to get this up as quickly as I can just because of its relevance and context. But after that, even just talk about the hurricane and stuff, I'll just have it as the regular schedule stuff, which will be starting at the first of the year. A lot of this stuff's going to be coming out. Because that's when we're switching over from the modern trailers, which the last one that I have done is coming out this Friday. It's for a game, it's not for a movie. I have another one in the works for a game, and one movie that's done, one movie that's half done, watching and writing notes. I haven't actually begun the actual trailer editing yet. And two more that are on the docket. A third one that's something I need to switch over its file type, so I can do that as well. So I kind of got 5 in the pipeline, and a sixth one that's because the next one that's coming is actually a game, not a movie, and then the other one's also another game. So I kind of have 6 in the works tentatively. Who knows how that's going to play out in the coming weeks. So Certainly, I believe enough to get me up to the first of the year, though, when I'm going to be switching over to the podcasts and just things that I have to say, whatever. Maybe it'll be podcasts every other week and just me talking about random crap every other week too. So we'll see. For now, I think this is a good place to kind of just put a cap on this, and we'll talk more later. Will we survive our own apocalypse? Only time will tell.